I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's not looking good for Avowed. I think it's safe to say that there'd be a lot of pressure on a game that's been hyped up to be the next Skyrim, but this almost looks like they're trying to fail at this point. From hiring blatant racist nut jobs to design their game, we even got Microsoft scrambling to defend themselves, to buying into the whole woke DEI agenda, which always makes the game more fun to play. Here's everything you need to know about Avowed and why it's not looking like it's worth our time. I think you guys are gonna enjoy this ride, and like every good roller coaster out there, it starts before you're ready. Avowed has been hyped up to be the next Skyrim since July 23rd, 2020 at the Xbox Games Showcase, where it was first announced. A breath of fresh air in the fantasy genre, if you will. Set in the world of Pillars of Eternity, you're sent by the Emperor to investigate a plague that's been running rampant in a distant land. Sounds nice and all. I think, personally, the problem we've run into with the whole fantasy genre these days, tell me if you agree, is I think we've run out of ideas. I think we're getting all very repetitive and boring. But nevertheless, here we go. To give you the bullet points, Avowed has a lot going for it. Being developed by Obsidian and backed by Microsoft, set in an already established and loved world, this game could be amazing. But, I mean, hey, you knew this was coming. We've been blessed with insights into the ideals behind some of the people in charge of designing this game. On November 5th, 2023, Matt Hansen tweeted out and said, quote, "We got too many crusty white dudes in this field. Please let me help you replace me one day." Wow, now I'll get to this in a second, but first of all, who is this Matt guy? Besides being downright racist, he's also the art director for Avowed. So, why is this important? The guy who's in charge of designing the look and the feel of the game has some very interesting beliefs. Now, first of all, I think it's safe to say that this isn't some kind of attention-seeking move or something like that. You know, let me say something crazy to get people talking and interested about the game. It feels too personal for that, and guys, get ready for this. Matt's tweet gained a lot of attention, enough to even get Elon Musk to comment on it, saying, "If true, this is against the law. Just because someone is a crusty white dude doesn't mean they should be excluded from hiring. No one should be hired based off of race or excluded because of it. This is a clear violation of equal opportunity laws." It also goes against Obsidian's EEO policy and Microsoft's hiring policy. And just to be clear, Microsoft is a parent company of Obsidian. As the scene escalated, Elon called out Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella for all of this being illegal. It was only after Elon directly tagged Satya in a tweet when Microsoft stepped in and made an official move. Microsoft's response was important because, again, they're the parent company of Obsidian. This isn't just some guy in some random company out there ranting about his anti-white views on the industry. This is all under Microsoft's umbrella. And just to be clear, if this is big enough for Microsoft to comment on it, then we should have seen them take action or make a move much earlier than we did. It was only after the legal side of this mess was brought to attention, with Microsoft's CEO being directly tagged in a post, that they finally said something. Nice. Now listen to this and tell me what you think. At Microsoft, we are committed to diversity and inclusion, but we also believe that hiring practices should be based on qualifications and experience, not race. Any suggestion to the contrary is unacceptable. We take such concerns seriously and will ensure that all teams, including those at Obsidian, adhere to the highest standards of fairness and inclusion. I'm gonna be 100% honest, this sounds like total bogus to me. Oh shoot, Elon Musk pointed out something that one of our employees, or one of the people who are under our umbrella, said is illegal. We gotta do something now. A couple of days after this, Obsidian stood up and basically copied Microsoft's heartfelt and genuine apology and statement, quote, "Obsidian Entertainment values diversity and inclusion, and we strive to create an environment where everyone feels welcome. However, it is also important that our hiring practices reflect fairness and are based on the qualifications and experience of each candidate. We are committed to fostering a culture of respect and equality, and we understand the need for continued dialogue on these important issues." Just wow. Well, continued dialogue didn't happen. And again, none of these companies would be saying anything if the legal implications weren't brought up. It shows you the integrity of these groups. All of them did respond to Matt, which means it was a big enough tweet that they had to respond, yet none of them did until Elon pointed out that this was illegal. Wonderful. Well, after this, Matt made his social media page private, and the situation has just kind of faded off. Was he fired? Nope. Was he put under watch to make sure his ideologies, which are in this industry illegal, weren't creeping into the game that he's designing? Because we already see how popular and loved they were. Most likely not. The companies, Microsoft and Obsidian, don't care that this guy said or believes all this, they're just glad that they dodged a bullet. It's gross once you see it, but don't tell yourself you're not. In fact, all of this is a mess. As excited as I've been for Avowed for the last several years, I can't sweep this under a rug. Do I really want to play a game where the world and tone has been designed and laid out by a guy who hates white people? I mean, he's white, so this is either some crazy masochistic plan to fulfill his inner desires, or he's just got some screws loose. Do you really want to play a game designed by this nutjob? I don't think so. Moving on. Based off of the announcement and the first bit of info we got on the story and the gameplay of Avowed, it seemed to have a darker tone. This was going to be the next Skyrim, so guys, it needed to be gritty and straight to the point. Well, as we got more trailers on the gameplay specifically, it turned out that the game wasn't like this at all. It was actually very cartoony. This threw the fans off because they definitely weren't expecting this. Now, this is a perfect way to get people interested in the game. Make it look and feel like everything they're looking for, and then flip it on their heads. Well done, Obsidian. Jeez. Next up are the pronouns. As part of the character customization, you can choose pronouns for your character. A lot of people were not pleased with this. Now, I have some thoughts. Pronouns do not ruin a game. They just simply do not. But what they imply is that there's more to come. Woke, if you will, ideologies have a tendency to spread through the game. They do not respect boundaries. And we've already seen that the guy in charge of designing the look and feel of the game's got some crazy ideas of his own. Again, the existence of pronouns in the game don't ruin the game. But let's just take a second and really look at this. This is a fantasy game, set in a fantasy world. I don't want to be lectured on pronouns. I don't even want them in a fantasy game. There's nothing fantastical about pronouns in a video game. It's just dumb and takes away from the actual game and story. But that's not all. We've been seeing signs that the development of Avowed is looking a little rough. While nothing official has been said by Obsidian, more on that in a second, I think it's safe to say that we've seen this happen once or twice, guys. Obsidian claims that they don't like showing us trailers or giving us any updates or news on the game until they have something big to show. But they've had some pretty long periods of silence, like that time they didn't give us any updates from June 2021 all the way to June 2023. Wow, 2 years, dear God. On top of that though, we've seen anonymous employees from Obsidian coming out and saying that there have been some pretty long periods of crunch time. So, what do we see? We see silence from the company and some heavy working behind the scenes. This isn't the first time we've seen this, and it pretty much never turns out well. So, Avowed. It's not looking so hot right now for them. I mean, seriously, I like to think about how Matt Hansen composed himself while being interviewed for this job. Was the interviewer also crazy, so they're both just like going insane? Or was he all dressed up? You know, was he saying please? Or did he have his hands in his lap, you know, folded over, acting like he'd be walking out of there with a lemon-flavored lollipop? And guys, is this Obsidian's first game? Do they really know how to advertise a video game? If people are going to be spending money on your video game, you want to keep them excited and looking forward to it. You want to treat them before the game actually comes out. Silence for an entire 2-year period is crazy and stupid. You gotta have something of value to show your future buyers. Again, is Obsidian dumb? I think it's a reasonable question. Video games used to be an art. Not even that long ago, we were getting games like Halo Combat Evolved, Mass Effect, Dragon Age Origins, Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim, Titanfall, Half-Life, and Final Fantasy, and so many more. These games were amazing. These are great games. These are games that live with you. We're thinking about them even when we're not playing them. There's an empty lot next to a road in front of my house, and every time I drive past it, I see the different plants that grow there, and I think about Red Dead Redemption. Every time it gets cold outside, I think about Mass Effect. I will repeat that. Every time the Earth does its natural rotation and revolution and the temperature drops a bit, I'm thinking about Mass Effect. Now, that isn't a game you see every day. Actually, scratch that. You don't play Mass Effect, you experience it. And that is a great game. But people these days are swapping out the art of a game, what gives it the fire that lives on in us for the rest of our lives, with a message. And that's not a great game. I'm not giving my money to these people only to be lectured about transgenderism and gender identity / fluidity like in Dragon Age Veilguard. Man, if only Duncan saw this, I'm sure he'd be glad his heartbreaking sacrifice went to all this. I'm sure Commander Shepard would be happy to see all his fighting, sacrifices, and life went to this. These aren't games. This isn't something that will stick with you for the right reasons like Mass Effect 1 and Red Dead Redemption or Halo CE. These are messages disguised as video games, and I don't want to play, let alone pay, to suffer through this. Guys, Avowed doesn't look like it's gonna be a great game. Until we see something different or some changes to this mess, Avowed just ain't it. Guys, this is a free market. It's something that not only do we take for granted, but we don't fully understand in the first place. It might seem as if we're just the consumers, we don't have any power, but that's quite the opposite. We have the power of not buying. It's our money that keeps these messages disguised as video games coming. Until we all decide that we just don't want to have to sit through this kind of dialogue and be preached to about how bad men are or whatever, and when we all stop buying these messages and giving them our money, then we'll reach a point where they come to us and make games that we'll enjoy. What we're asking for isn't too much or too big. Screw it, it was the norm back in the day. We consistently got great games because they were an art. Making them was an art. Go and watch the behind the scenes documentary on Mass Effect. It's on YouTube. Those guys were passionate about creating this game and telling this story. You can see it in the way they speak and the way they act. These guys were excited about this. This was an art. But this? Yeah, I don't think so. So until we see something different from Avowed and Obsidian's chucklesome cast of half-baked characters, this isn't a great game. Save your money. Well, what do you think? I'm really trying to challenge the way that I do videos, and this one specifically was important to me, but I'm getting closer. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear everything that you have to say about this topic, about Avowed. What are your thoughts on that? Are you excited for the game? Do you want it to come out? What are you looking forward to? What are your thoughts on the whole free market thing? I want to know. Again, guys, I'm trying to build a community here, and that starts with you. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and remember, life is short. Play great games. It's not every day that I'm proud to be happy about a game shutting down that in the process killed the company who made it, took roughly 8 years to make, and $200+ million. I'm usually really nice and happy, guys. But Concord is an interesting case. Never have I ever seen such a mess in one game, and I hate it. It was hyped up to be the next big thing.